Go live with the stream.
I don't want to hear about your stream.
All right. There we go. Now we're back. Hey, everybody. Good morning. We're back. So let's see here. We got a few people joining in here. We'll let a few more folks get on here. How you doing? How you doing, Jerry?
Very well. It's a festive time of year.
I love the background. There's nothing better than the Peanuts Happy Dance at Christmas.
Better than the Charlie Brown Christmas specials for sure. And I missed the Thanksgiving one, which I was a little bummed about.
Yeah.
But but I've got my eye out for the Christmas one.
Yep. It's I'm surprised it's not running already.
You'll shoot your eye out.
That's another.
Has anybody seen the new one yet?
Yeah.
You did.
There's a new one.
There is a new one. There is a Christmas story is what it's called. And it's actually this time, so they did a Christmas Story 2, but it didn't have Ralphie, and it was apparently not very good. I never saw it. But now they have a Christmas Story on HBO Max, and it's Ralphie and everybody from the original movie, except, of course, Gavin, the guy who played the old man, has passed away. But basically, I haven't seen it yet, but the general idea is the torch has been passed, and now Ralphie has to make sure that Christmas is a success. So we'll see if it's good.
He has to make sure his kids don't shoot their eye out. That's all.
Well, I was going to say, it starts out as a 10-year-old boy. I want a BB gun so I can put somebody else's eye out.
Yep. Yep. I saw I saw a little Rodney Dangerfield clip this morning. Rodney Dangerfield talking about, when I was a kid, I got my kid a BB gun for Christmas. He got me a sweater with a target on the back.
I love it. Fun story for the next happy hour. I have a brother who has a BB in him to this day. So there's a story.
Don't mess with Holly. That sounds like the story.
She's from Texas and her brother has a BB gun. So yeah, that's enough.
I didn't shoot him with mine. Okay. I may or may not have been the shooter, by the way. But also, I mean, a BB versus a Colt 45, you're winning.
She's from Texas, and that's just a starter gun.
I'd say you are.
That's a fact. So hey, everybody, we got a few people in here now. Let's get started with some hellos and some networking and get to know each other a little bit. First of all, welcome to Product Coffee. If you haven't been here before, the way we do this is for about the first half an hour. We're just gonna get to know each other, talk to everybody a little bit, find out what you've got on your mind, what you're up to, and I'll go around and I will look at whether you have your camera on or not. If you have your camera on, I will invite you to introduce yourself to everybody here, get to know the folks on the call, tell us who you are, who you're with, and what has your attention. And when I ask what has your attention, it's generally something product management related, but it might not be. But maybe you've got a celebration that you want to be recognized for. You just launched a product. You had a great successful product story, or maybe you have a challenge that you're trying to sort out. And a lot of times what we end up doing in this first few minutes of Product Coffee is we talk about the specific challenges that people have and help them out or connect them with people who might be able to help them out. I also want to welcome a couple of folks who are joining us for the first time. Alex and Kelly, glad to have you here. So let me get somebody who's been here a time or two before to start off with the introductions, and then we'll switch over to some of the new folks as well. Matt Bettina, welcome back. How are you, my friend?
Doing pretty good. How are you?
Doing great.
Long time no see.
Yeah, it's been like almost a week.
Yeah, I think so. So I'm a product director with a public service, public sector company. We do work for airports and public transit agencies, and I manage a small team of product managers and specialists. I also work with a lot of other folks, UX, many of you, developers, project managers, etc., and our executive leadership team. This content today will be very, very awesome. I'm looking forward to it. I think that we have a star-studded panel lined up here, and it's a little ahead of where I am right now in terms of where my head's at. But I think maybe sometime next year I'll be revisiting all of this on metrics. Right now, I've got about a week left to wrap up a roadmap for next year for 3 different products, and I have some performance reviews to finish and a whole heap of other stuff. So,
but you got to shoot for where the ball is going, right, Matt? You never go for where the ball is now. You got to get ahead of it.
You're talking about Wayne Gretzky.
Soccer, but
skate where the puck is going. Exactly. So that's where I'm at
for those metric conversations when they get there, right? Sorry.
Yep. That's right.
Yep. So absolutely, yeah, and of course you'll have all the recordings for the metric session, so you can go back and rewatch them all you want. So, but
yeah, that is one of my favorite quotes, though. That Wayne Gretzky, skate to where the puck is going.
Yep.
I live by that. So, thank you.
Yep. Well, and it's good to have you back. And this is a time of year that the metrics conversation is, on the one hand, good for this time of year because we're thinking about next year, and on the other hand, we're also wrapping up this year, so it might be a New Year's resolution for a lot of people. But glad to have you back. Matt came up here from New Orleans for our Atlanta holiday party last week, so it was great to see you again in person, and hope we'll make that a regular thing. So
yeah, Jason is an excellent host. I'm just gonna leave it at that.
All right. So
he's the rock star. Jason is a rock star.
He is a rock star.
Nah.
But I can't say anymore. So
let's welcome Kelly Hall. Kelly, welcome to Product Coffee. Why don't you introduce yourself to everyone?
Hey, thanks. Kelly Hall. I work at a tech real estate company, and I lead the program management team there. So this was recommended as a good option from a friend that I should attend. So I'm here to check it out and see how things are.
Very good. Very good. So what has your attention these days, Kelly? What's on your mind?
Yeah, so we just launched a new phone system. We moved over, for those of you that are familiar with Truly, we had Truly, we moved over to Dialpad, which is the entire organization, which is a project that I was just leading myself, not my team. This one was one I had. So we're on day 2 of the new phone system, and timely on metrics because we're making sure that all the reporting that we use as a business is still working appropriately, and some things we need some new reporting on with the new functionality. So that's what's got my attention right now, day 2 of a new phone system.
That will have your attention. Well, we're glad to have you here. Looking forward to getting to know you in the weeks and months ahead. We've got a couple more sessions left for this year, and then we'll take off for the holidays and be back in January to get started with a whole new series. So welcome to Product Coffee. Glad to have you.
Thanks.
Let's see here. Who else do we have here? Let's go over and say hello to Stark Hayden. Stark, welcome back.
Hey everyone, thanks. Happy to be back. So Stark Hayden, I work at Citus AMC. I head up product management for our commercial real estate technologies. What's in my head right now is budgets, staffing. What we're going to tackle next year, what the roadmaps look like, getting some alignment on that.
'Tis the most wonderful time of the year, budget season.
Right.
Cool. Well, good to see you back. Welcome back. Glad to have you. Let's
Thanks.
see who's next. Let's go to Divya. Welcome back, Divya. Say hello.
Hi everyone. My name is Divya Ganju, and I am new in Atlanta. I mean, relatively new in Atlanta. So up to November 30th, I was heading the last mile product for a company called Big Basket. It's an e-commerce major in India. Now I am looking for transitioning into something new here, and looking out for opportunities. So if you know anybody who wants to, who's looking for somebody like a senior or principal or a group product manager, and they are in the supply chain space especially, or even otherwise, you can hit me up on LinkedIn. What's on, and that's what is on my mind right now. How to basically I'm looking out for new opportunities at the moment. So yeah, and also in terms of numbers, because I have just left, I'm trying to sort of consolidate everything I have done in Big Basket in the last 4 years, and making sure that everything is up to date and I don't forget some of the important things. Just a quick highlight, and because we're talking numbers, I just want to make sure I talk about some numbers here. I was so when I left, as of that date, the product that I had launched, it was the 0 to 1 product, had reached number 2 in terms of revenue in terms of the business line revenue at Big Basket. So that was something which I wanted to, which was great. So it is, so Big Basket does about, I think, 500,000 orders every day. And this has reached almost like 200,000. So this business line, yeah.
That's significant scale. So
yeah, and we did that in like 1.5 years. So
yeah, so that is fantastic. I actually do know of an opportunity here in Atlanta that might be a really good fit for you. I will connect with you on that one offline as well. So
great, that will be great. Thank you.
Yeah. So, and let's see here. Where are we going to go next? We got a couple of other new folks I want to welcome for the first time. Say, just everybody give a big wave to Francisca and Brian, who are joining Product Coffee today for the first time. And let's pivot over to Francisca and say hello. Why don't you introduce yourself to everybody?
Sure. Actually, Jason, I was here, but a long time ago.
Yes, it's been a while. You got a new email address too. That's my secret trick.
Yeah. Actually, I changed employers. That's why I have a different email address now. So yeah, I'm back. It was a while. I was super busy, but finally I blocked the calendar to be able to join again. So yeah, I'm now working, fortunately, as product manager. And I'm very happy to announce that. Before I was more product owner and just consultant, and now I'm at Volkswagen Group charging, product owner, product manager for smart charging, which is a super exciting topic at the moment. And yeah, I'm from Germany. That's why it's a bit dark here already, and I had to switch my laptops in order to be able to log in. But happy to be here, happy to hear about all the metrics and KPIs and everything. I just thought there were some previous sessions, so I hope I can catch up on this. But I already subscribed for the follow-up ones, so happy to be here, happy to meet you all, and yeah. Great to be back.
Excellent. I am so glad to have you back. That is an exciting evolution there. Really, really glad to see it. And you're right. As soon as you popped on camera, it's like, oh, we've met before. It's absolute. So yeah, I have a secret trick. I'll just let everybody in on my secret. I have a script that runs. And when somebody checks in with a new email address who's never been here before to Product Coffee, I get an alert in Slack over here. And so I try to say hi to all the new people and make sure that that we call you out. And but every once in a while, somebody changes the email addresses on me, and and I look like I don't know you, but I do, and I missed you, and
I'm
glad you're back. So now everybody's going to go change their email address just to mess with me next week, I'm pretty sure.
You know about that.
So,
Never met you
all right,
before.
let's see here. And I've got a few folks that are on here on our panel, and I'm going to introduce them kind of last. But let's jump over to Scott Leibowitz. Scott, welcome back to Product Coffee. Glad to see you.
Hey, Jason. Hi, everybody. It's good to see y'all. So I'm in the Atlanta area. I am, like Divya, I've had a hard time making time for this, unfortunately, because of so much going on. But it turns out that I'm currently in between positions. I just experienced a layoff recently. Working at Reify Health was where I was at, a company based in Boston, and serving as a group product manager there over our kind of like internal tool set. We had 4 squads that were working on various components of like clinical trials, protocol, configuration, utility, essentially. And we were doing that for quite a while. So what I was working on most recently was really just helping large like CS teams to scale. There's a lot of manual processes, a lot of, inefficiencies in the processes. So we were kind of meeting with teams in order to help them kind of understand opportunities for automation and then developing tools for that. So that's what I was working on most recently, and just coordinating like between multiple squads that I was currently managing, as well as kind of like how our squads would interface with other squads was also big, and metrics is also a big thing for me too. So that's me.
Very good. Welcome back. I'm sorry to hear that you, like so many people, are coming into the holiday season on the hunt. And it's hitting the tech industry really hard right now. I was listening to a podcast the other day, and according to I'm trying to remember the name of the website. It's a big community for salespeople. I'm drawing a mental blank on it. Just a minute. It'll come to me in just a moment. But the CEO of that company was saying that something like 80% of software companies missed their quarterly target last quarter, and a pretty big number missed it the quarter before that. And of course, that really drives a lot of reprioritization, budget changes across a lot of businesses. Product management seems to be being hit especially hard right now as well. I don't know that that's wise, but it is what it is. It's one of the things we have to deal with. The good news is, while a lot of companies slow down hiring during the month of December, there is still a lot of pent-up energy, and there have been a lot of open roles running around for top-tier, highly qualified, experienced product people. I know of one company here in Atlanta, and you're actually, if you're in Atlanta, you'll be getting an email from us in the next few days. There's a company here in Atlanta that is holding a big recruiting event on December 13th. They are trying to add 30 product managers over the next month or so. I also know that FanDuel down at Ponce City Market is still growing their product management team. I don't know how quickly everything is moving over the course of December, but there are opportunities out there. They are open here in Atlanta and around the world. But there's a lot of activity in the market. So make sure that you're spending some time on your resume and looking at those outcomes that you've been able to achieve in your previous roles. That's what the employers are looking for. They're not just looking for people who have done the product management work. They're looking for people who can prove results and how they've had an impact in their organization. So make sure that you're thinking about that. And if you've got, if you're actually globally, there's a guy, James Jordan, and I don't think he's on the call today, but if you reach out to me on LinkedIn, I'll connect you to him. James is actually running a product management specific placement practice. So he works for employers. He does retained search. He does search for product management specifically. He knows the product management space inside and out. And I know all of you have gotten calls from recruiters who have a product management role, but what they're really talking about is project management or something that isn't product management coming from a company that doesn't understand what product management really is. James gets it. He understands it. And he knows how to filter those roles and connect the right people to them. So I'll be happy to connect you with him on LinkedIn as well, so that you're in his database, and as his opportunities come up, he can connect you to the right things as well. So reach out to me on LinkedIn, connect with me, message me, and I'll get you connected to James as well.
Awesome. Thanks, Jason. Appreciate that.
You bet. So glad to have everybody here. Let's see who else we've got here. It's about 11:49 here Eastern. We got a few minutes. So Rajan, I need you to come on camera and say hello. I'm hearing a lot about your background. I want to see what's going on here.
Oh, yeah. Me?
Yeah, it was on here a minute ago. Did you change backgrounds?
Yeah, no, maybe I did. So my name is Rajan Dashel. I am a product owner here at Grayshift. Grayshift is a company that creates a tool for mobile extractions for law enforcement. So our customers are a lot of law enforcement agencies. And I've been with this company just over a year. Really busy. It's that time of year, planning, all the good stuff, all the fun stuff. And I'm here to, just trying to learn about metrics and how we can use that to drive some of the, priorities, right? And get alignment on priorities, because right now that's what I'm having an issue with. Right now I'm trying to argue with the team. We need to do this first. And they're like, no, we need to do this first. And I'm like, okay. Let's talk about this. So, that's a little bit about me. I'm based in Atlanta. Been part of Product Coffee. A lot of product groups, probably seen a couple of you around, and product camp or some product event. And I'm just happy to be here. Thank you.
So glad to see you. I love seeing you sporting that good-looking Product Coffee shirt. Check that out. Yeah, Rajan is one of our Product Coffee Premium members, and we send out some swag every once in a while to our premium members. And that's a deeper level of Product Coffee. If you're interested in really working on how you can be more impactful in your career, we have a private Slack channel where we get in deep into some much deeper product management discussions. We also have a professional development workshop almost every single month. We've got one coming up next week, as a matter of fact. You can go over to productcoffee.com/workshops. And you'll see it. It's Power Metrics is the name of the workshop. And one of our panelists today is going to be leading a session on building and understanding your North Star metric. Whether your organization already has one or doesn't, you're going to be equipped to understand it and use it to drive your product management direction and drive alignment throughout your business. And if your company doesn't already have one, then you're able to, then we're going to actually walk you through the process and a workshop that you can take to your leadership and to your team and help to start build that mentality and create greater impact in your own organization. That's over at productcoffee.com/workshops. The workshop's $199 for non-members. Product Coffee Premium members get that for free. And your premium membership right now is only $250 a year. A lot of you will be able to even expense that to a training budget at your company. Check with your leadership on that. So would love to have you join us for Product Coffee Premium. And let's see, what else do we have here? We got time for maybe another introduction or two. Let's see who we've got. We've got Lisa Crimes back for the first time in a while. Welcome back, Lisa.
Morning. Can you
Good
hear me?
morning. Yes.
Good. Trying to get the AirPods working here, but I can hear everybody. Great to see everyone. Happy to be here. What am I saying other than it's still good morning? It's still officially good morning. I squeaked in.
Sorry. Had a little feedback. Keep going.
What has your attention is what he's looking for.
What was that? What has my attention?
What has your attention is what he's looking for.
So I am working with a number of startups these days. I think I'm up to about 4 now or 5 that doing some chief product officer work for them, chief revenue officer. I'm working with some commercialization strategy and some innovation groups too, which is a lot of fun. It's always fun to see how people think about that and bring that into their organization. Frameworks that work for their culture. Meaning we all have. We follow, like Product Management University is John Mansour is typically the framework that I follow and have rolled out to many organizations. So I don't always have to put that label on it to bring that level of thinking, but just helping people to evolve to understand that they need that formality within their organization as they, when it's never existed before. So having a lot of fun with all of them and happy to be here this morning.
So glad to have you back. Welcome back, Lisa. And sorry about that little feedback I put over you there for a second. But I also want to welcome Christopher, who's joining us for the first time from Dollar Bank. Glad to have you joining us. Let's see here. Do you have your camera on? Yeah, we are. Why don't you jump on camera real quick and say hello and introduce yourself, Christopher?
Sure. So I'm, Chris Badger, work at Dollar Bank, the largest remaining mutual organization trying to mature their digital channel offerings and establish a good discipline for product, within a very traditional institution. I'm located in Pittsburgh, PA. I see a couple of folks, Brian, I've, met you before. Hallie, I met you at Product Camp. I know Product Camp is, now scheduled for 2023. So I'm looking forward to that and just thought that this was something that was really topical. We're starting to get into planning, so looking over, our goals for 2023 and thought that this would be a good thing to attend.
Excellent. Yep. Great timing, and glad to have you here. Good to see you. Welcome to Product Coffee. Hope you'll stick around and come back and see us over and over again. We do this almost every week, and we alternate between early time slot 7:30 a.m. Eastern and a late time slot 11:30 a.m. Eastern, and that is so we can have a friendly time for our coffee lovers out on the West Coast as well. And we know there's a lot of those, and so this one tends to be a little bit more of a friendly time for a lot of people. At the same time, in our earlier calls, it's a lot easier for Francisca and some of our friends over across the Atlantic Ocean and further east into Asia and so on to join us as well. So we try to get around and serve everyone that we can. Let's see, we got time for maybe one more. Let's say hey to Chris Chan. Welcome back, Chris.
Thank you very much. I am supposed to be on a convention floor right now, but I snuck away so I could at least attend one of these live. What's on my mind has been it's been on my mind like a tumor, I'll say. What tool do we use to manage all this madness? I've got a team that's trying to get to a simple solution, which I wholeheartedly believe will be inadequate going forward because of all the nuances of what we're doing. So what my method is, making more work for myself by 2, is they're going to use a simple tool. I'll run the shadow government in the back end in Notion because it has all the capacity I need. And then when they come crying and say, hey, this sucks, I'm like, yeah, I know. Switch over, but I don't want to have to do that. So it's change management plus tool churn plus managing and hedging against future risks. So that was a lot, but that's what's on my mind.
Oh, that's a big one. I think that is definitely one of the topics we're going to hit on today. I would love to, even if we don't have time today, I would love to dig in on how you're thinking of using Notion for tracking. I know a lot of people are finding that Notion is a really flexible, powerful tool that you can do a lot of things with. I keep having it on my list of things to learn, but I would love to for you to at some point share with us what you're doing with your metrics and KPIs and how you're using Notion as in your product management practice as well. I think that would be really interesting and probably pretty helpful. So So good to see you. Glad you could join us in person. I was really happy to see you were able to log in here today. So let's see. I got time for one more. Let's say hey to Leslie McKay. Leslie, welcome back.
Hey, Jason. It's good to be back. It's been crazy lately, but it's very nice to kind of be back and talking about these things. It's so important. My name's Leslie. I'm from Pittsburgh also. It looks like there's a few Pittsburghers or former Pittsburghers on the call. I work with SAE International, and we are a standards development organization who is trying to, for the first time, be a solutions provider and software provider. So we are providing a digital standard solution, and it's a brand new product. It's a brand new market. So that's a lot of what's on my mind today is when you introduce a product that is so new and you have to educate people on not only its value, but also how they can work it into their current work streams and how they can, adopt it without, kind of scaring them away, saying, oh, that's too much change for me. So that's a lot of what's on my mind right now.
All right. Well, glad you could be here. Welcome back. I'm curious, and we got to switch over to our program real quick, but I'm really kind of curious about your digital standards product. That's different from the standards document e-commerce storefront that you have out there at SAE, right? This is a whole different way of delivering standards in a digital way.
Right. Yeah, we have the store that you can go and you can download PDFs and such, but this would be actually getting digital requirements. So you can stop thinking about it as a PDF and start thinking about it as a database, rather than a document, as a database of requirements. I'm actually pretty excited because I recently put together a educational presentation on how to write a digital ready standard, because we're using an AI model to convert our standards from PDF and XML to this digital format. And we've uncovered a lot of lessons learned of how you think about a document and how a machine reads a document and converts it. And I'm actually going to be presenting to NATO and NASA. So I'm going to be teaching rocket scientists on how to write a digital ready standard. I'm pretty excited about that.
That is super cool. That is awesome. So that definitely has your attention. All right. Well, welcome back. Glad to have you. For everybody that we didn't get to, I'm sorry. I'll try to get to you to say a hello next time. But great to have such a great audience here today. I want to get into our program. The first thing I want to do is welcome to Product Coffee. If you haven't been here before, we're glad you're joining us. We've got a lot going on. We're finishing up today. This is the last in our 4-part series on metrics. And we do have one more cherry on top of our metrics series next week at productcoffee.com/workshops. We have a Power Metrics workshop that you can sign up for, where we'll be digging into North Star metrics and how to put a North Star metric to work in your organization. Whether you've already got one or need to develop one, we'll equip you to lead the conversation around it or participate in the conversation that's going on. It's a 2-hour workshop on Friday the 16th, starting at 10 a.m. Eastern, and hope you can all join us there. Product Coffee Premium members get that included in their membership. So that'll be free if you're a Product Coffee Premium member. And for everyone else, it's available for $199, or you can just join Premium for $250 a year. And you'll get about 12 workshops. We do one almost every single month throughout the year, professional development workshops to help you be more impactful as a product professional. I also want to thank our sponsors. We've got some fantastic sponsors here at Product Camp that really help to make this program possible in the first place. And it looks like they're not showing up. Here we go. There we go. That's what we want to see. We couldn't do this online global meetup every single week if it weren't for our sponsors. We've got Method, Sopheon, Product Management University, and Feature Upvote. And since we've got Method and Sopheon here, I'd love to give you just a minute, Jeff, to say hello on behalf of Method and tell everybody a little bit about what Method does.
Hello, everybody. This is great. I see some new faces today, which is always fun. And yes, Holly, plenty of ones I've seen before. I see the wave. Thank you. Anyways, yeah. So I get the great fortune of working with Method along with Jason, and we are a digital product consultancy. We get to work with companies to launch new products and services, helping introduce some modern product principles along the way. We get to launch some innovation labs with some large companies as well. So we get to play around with what 5G and connected car services are going to look like, and kind of the future of banking, where our headquarters is actually out of Charlotte. So we have to work with basically all the banks, I think. We're here in Atlanta, and always glad to support, and always look forward to joining these. Thanks so much, Jason.
You bet. Thanks for being here, Jeff, and thanks for your support. And let's also going to kind of introduce him a little bit early, but one of our panelists here, Brian Utz, is Director of Product at Sopheon, and Sopheon is our newest sponsor at Product Coffee. So why don't you say hello and tell everybody a little bit about Sopheon, Brian?
Yeah, thanks, Jason. So I'm Brian Utz. I'm our Director of Product Management, and Sopheon, I always like to say, is probably the coolest company you've never heard of. So we have now 4 products in a suite of products that is aimed at enabling innovation management. So everything from helping chemical customers try to figure out how to make their chemicals more sustainable and more biodegradable, to CPG companies trying to make healthier snacks and really driving down some of the obesity epidemics that we're dealing with in the US and lowering healthcare costs. So really an inspiring place to work, and some great customers to work with, and excited to be here today, not only as a sponsor, but to talk about the topic.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Brian. Glad you could be here as well. And it's great to finally meet you. We've been circling around on email and LinkedIn and Twitter for a long time. I'm glad to have you here at Product Coffee. So thank you.
Likewise.
So, and of course, Product Management University at productmanagementuniversity.com, as well as Feature Upvote at featureupvote.com. We're so proud and pleased for all of our sponsors. Thank you for supporting what we do. So, as I said, we've been finishing up our series. This is the series that we've held over the last several weeks on making metrics matter. And this is going to round out our year. We've got one. Yes.
Yeah, so I have one suggestion.
Let me get back to you in just a minute, Archit, okay?
Yeah, sure.
So we've got our Making Metrics Matter series that we've been finishing out today. And then next week, we've got one more session for the year, one more of our regular Wednesday sessions. We are doing a session on product management stories. And we're going to hear from product managers all over the world about how they got into the business in the first place, or how they got into this career path in the first place. And we'd love to have you back here for that. And we've got our Power Metrics workshop next week as well on Friday, and we'd love to see you join us for that. But as I said, next week on Wednesday, we're doing How Did I Get Here? A Product Management Tale. I'm just going to take a little bit of a fun trip there and back again on your journey into product management. We do this a couple times a year, and it's just a lot of fun to hear people's origin stories, so to speak. So we'd love to have you plan on joining us and telling us a little bit about how you got into this place in your career from the very beginning. Can't wait to hear about that. And today we're going to be kicking off our last panel on product metrics. And I want to welcome, we've got a great panel here today to really bring in a few great thinkers on metrics and KPIs, and not only how to develop good KPIs and how to think about KPIs in your product, but once you've got those KPIs and metrics established, how do you put them to use? How do you ensure that you've got alignment throughout the business How do you manage them on an ongoing basis? How do you get the maximum impact of having a clear understanding of what you're measuring and why? And so we're going to welcome Brian Utes from Sopheon, our director of product management there. We've also got back with us again today, Thiago Brum, Director of Product Management at ADP. And Thiago spoke with us last week on perfecting KPIs. And we are also welcoming today Jerry Odenwelder, who many of you know as a longtime Product Coffee member. He's also a product management coach at CPrime, and he's going to be leading our workshop next week. So Jerry's going to be here to talk about this with us as well. So let me switch over and just actually ask each of you to just say a quick help. Well, let's do this first. We got a resources page over at productcoffee.com/now that you can go over and you can find links to all of our panelists' profiles will be linked on there later today. And you can also find something really important. It's this notes document. You can also get there by going to productcoffee.com/notes. And once you get there, you'll be able to join us in a Google document where we'll take notes together as a team as we hear great insights, have great thoughts and questions. Take notes collaboratively with us at productcoffee.com/notes. So we build a record of this conversation together, and you can add your voice and your thoughts and links to articles that you know about that might help with the topics that we talk about today. And drop your LinkedIn link in there as well if you'd like people to connect with you. So I'd love to have you join us over in the notes document. Now, I am going to switch over and I'm going to ask each of our panelists to give us just a little brief introduction about themselves and how you got to where you are today. It's not so much the full product management background, but tell us a little bit about your background in product management and what has your attention right now as well. So let's start with Brian over at Sopheon. Brian, welcome.
Great, thanks, Jason. So I think I got started pretty much one of the 300 ways that you can get started in product management. So I was a business analyst and kept asking the question of why and what is this doing? And eventually somebody said, if you're really interested in that, that's product management. And I was able to get into a product management role, worked with a small company in financial services, and then ended up working with Citibank, working with PNC here in Pittsburgh. So I've done finance, I've done retail with Dick's Sporting Goods here. I've done healthcare, B2B SaaS. Right now, what has my focus is building the best product management tool for product managers. So we're attacking that space here at Sopheon and trying to create the best product possible. And oddly enough, the focus of that product is really on being able to explain your why, right? We know there are tools out there that help you collaborate with your engineers, but we really wanted to focus on being able to explain why do we care about what you're doing with your engineers and communicate that to the rest of the organization and bring the rest of the organization into your product lifecycle. So that's really what we're focused on right now, and it consumes a large part of my day. So excited to be here and talk about this topic because it's been on my mind for the last year and a half.
Excellent. Well, we're really glad to have you, and thanks again for your sponsorship at Sopheon. I'm really glad to have you here today. And Thiago, a lot of folks here know you, but not everybody. So why don't you tell everybody a little bit about your background and what has your attention now?
All right. Well, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, everybody. So my name is Thiago Brum. I'm Director of Product with ADP. And I think just like Brian, one of the main reasons why I got into product management is because of my questions, right? I would say, I used to say to people who get to know me first time that I was a lousy developer who couldn't keep his mouth shut, right? So I was always asking, why are we doing this? What is the purpose of it? How are we going to solve this problem properly, right? So I slowly started to transition outside of engineering and more into the product side and management side. Also, fun fact, although I was an engineer, my undergrad is in business. So I was an engineer doing business school. So it just contributed to the whole mess, right? But I've been in product management for about 11 years now. Currently I'm actually back to ADP. I left ADP for a year to take a new adventure in the startup world, and then ADP called me back. And today I'm leading the product team that is building a new payroll solution for the down market and core markets of ADP. So for those of you who don't know, ADP is a human capital management company. Many of you have seen ADP pay stub at some point in your professional life. If you haven't seen that yet, you will. Don't worry about that. We are in like several countries worldwide. So yeah, my attention right now is and where I spend most of my time is half of the time is really removing blockers for my team and coaching them, and the other half of the time is managing up and making sure everybody's on the same page. So very, very happy to be here talking again about metrics with all of you, sharing some of the war stories and how we got where we are right now.
Excellent. Welcome, Thiago. So glad to have you here on our panel as well, and appreciate all your contributions. And finally, say hello to Jerry Odenwelder. Jerry, welcome, and thank you for being on our panel today. Why don't you introduce yourself and tell everybody a little bit about your background?
Yeah, thank you. Welcome, everyone. Jerry Odenwelder, as Jason said, I'm a product coach at CPrime today. But my career began a lot like Thiago's. I started out in development. Actually have an engineering degree, found my way from the hardware side of things into software many, many years ago. But I always thought about what I built as a product. I was always that developer that wanted to like get in front of the customers and talk to the customers. I did not want to look through, a requirements document to find out what they wanted. I wanted to actually talk to people. And I always, wanted to build things iteratively. I would work on stuff and just share them across the team if I couldn't share it with the customer. So that was just kind of naturally the way I worked and the way I like to engage with the team and with the customers. I actually started up a development management path while I was at Borland, and due to some reorganization just prior to the big Borland sell-off, I pivoted to product management and spent many years here in Atlanta at version 1 as a product manager, where that was when, a lot of the agile project management and agile product management stuff was kind of taken off in the early 2000 timeframe. And so in that time, I got exposed to a lot of thought leaders and exposed to a lot of product teams at companies from all sizes, right? Startups to Fortune 500s. So when I left version 1, kind of jumped around a little bit to some other companies before finally landing as a coach, because I enjoy helping people and helping people become better product managers. So.
Very good. I'm so glad you're here. Let me start with you, since we got you on the camera right now, Jerry. One of the things that we would really like to understand to begin with is about your experience introducing, and you came up through the development path as well. So I'd like you to talk a little bit about your experience introducing business metrics and KPIs to development teams, both on the receiving end and on the introducing end. Tell me a little bit about what those experiences have looked like, especially when it comes to, have you worked with teams that are primarily focused on output-like metrics like velocity and tickets closed and things like that? Or have you been part of shifting them into more outcome-focused discussions with you on business KPIs? What has your experience looked like in that vein?
So from working with customers, and whether they were version 1 customers or CPrime customers, and working with them, I do see a lot of companies focused on the output metrics, the velocities, the burn downs, and things like that. And one of the conversations that I typically have with them, or tend to have with them, is about how that metric actually, it's actually more important to get to the working software. How does velocity translate to working software? So what if you delivered 30 points in this sprint, if those 30 points did not provide any customer value? did not set the foundation for customer value, right? Sometimes you have to do work that lays a foundation for customer value. And it's really like trying to just help them see that those metrics have value. They're not completely useless, but at the same time, it's the customer that we really care about. It's the value we're delivering them. How do we help them solve a problem that really matters?
Yeah, if I may.
Please. That's why I paused.
Yeah. No, and you know, like on my experience, it was something. It was very output driven, so it's really velocity and how many features it can deliver in a quarter, and how many things you're releasing for sales. But you know, at the end of the day, going back to asking why, right? Okay, so why are we doing this? Is this adding value? And we were not paying too much attention on what was the experience to the end customer, right? What was the experience to the end user? So I think everything started shifting through like the best way where you can get B2B to start paying attention on user experience, which is tickets and complaints from customers, right? And churn. So when you start getting a lot of churn and start having unsatisfied customers, then we start realizing, well, maybe that's time for us to think about, are we doing the right thing? Are we building the right solution? Or most importantly, are we solving the right problem? Right. So that's how we kind of started focusing a little bit more on the outcomes, right? But fun fact, it was actually we started doing metrics the wrong way. We started doing metrics like through the most basic A/B testing to see which banner was the prettiest to take to the feature we wanted to take the user. Right, and not something that was really meaningful to us, and then tracking the engagement by daily and monthly active users. Something that I talked about last week that can be a little dangerous to rely a lot on that metric, because it doesn't necessarily give you direction, and then we started analyzing the metrics and say, oh, look at that. Our user base is growing exponentially, but it was a B2C solution that was bundled with the package we already sold. So it was expected that it was going to grow, right? So we start experimenting and doing things the wrong way until we start realizing, okay, well, how do we really how do we become more intentional about the metrics that we collect, right? Pay more attention to the leading indicators that they are telling how we are operating, and how do we transform that to provide a better solution, and to keep. And that's when UX research came in, and UX design, and that's when we started like working more as a triad or as a product trio, depending on which author you read the most, to start focusing more on the outcomes. And trying to detach a little bit from the outputs. The outputs are still something that management likes to see, but whenever there's some question on the outputs of velocity, I say, okay, what does that mean? Does it make we are more productive right now? Like, or is what we get out of the NPS and all of our client metrics and revenue metrics that are really telling the story that we are able to create a positive impact to the organization?
And it's kind of interesting when developers can see that, when developers can actually see that positive impact with customers. It can be a game changer.
Yeah. So I'll complete our panelist round robin here. I've been at those organizations as well, where you start to see a lot of output metrics and things like that. One of the things that we've done in our past to really drive home that idea of outcomes is kind of use the illustration of an airplane flight, right? And we always say, great flight, great landing, wrong airport results in 0 happy travelers, right? If we're just looking at velocity and outputs, we're just looking at airspeed, we're just looking at is the landing gear down? Great. But that doesn't really tell the whole story. And so at the end of the day, we need to get into our metrics, and honestly, to us, it starts with those business KPIs, right? But those are still kind of the lagging indicators that tell us if we're winning. What we're trying to get to every day is, okay, well, what's the customer problem we're solving? And why is that a problem we're solving? And who has it? And where do they have it? And then at the end of it, how will we know we solved it, right? What is it really going to change? Is it going to change our conversion rate? Is it going to change our average order value? All of those types of things. And then being able to tie that back. I mean, you get into some of these situations where you're doing a lot, and so it's hard to get true attribution to one change. But being able to say, hey, if we were focused on this metric over the last month, if we've seen that curve change, and so it really is getting that holistic view of that customer journey and understanding where there are friction points and understanding where the goal achievement happens and where you're having fallouts in those goals. One of the exercises I've done in the past is I've had a team of engineers kind of work together and say, okay, well, it's a non-development exercise, right? So here's the situation. We're working in a soap factory, and we found out that one of our boxes of soap shipped with no soap in it. And so now we need to build an X-ray machine or an imaging machine that's going to show us, is there soap in every single one of these boxes? And then I give them about half an hour or 15 minutes to work on the ideal soap imaging machine. Think about, do we need reporting? Do we need an on-off switch? Do we need the route? Like, what happens when we have an empty box? All of those types of things. And so they get these real elaborate solutions. And then I put 3 boxes of Zest up on the table, and I turn on a fan, and I just walk down the table and blow off the empty box, and try to bring that back to, like, look, here's the outcome we wanted, right? I handed you a solution and nobody asked, well, why is that the right solution? And so in addition to having those metrics, and I think those metrics are great because it tells us, can we handle the market demand, right? The output metrics tell us, if we have this spike in demand, how quickly can we respond to it? Or if we have to change in demand or whatever it may be, how quickly can we get things out there? But the thing that matters is, are we getting the right things out there?
Yeah. One thing, just one compliment to what Brian said about, I gave you the solution and didn't question anything. I think this is a problem we have. This is an old problem that is hard to solve, which is a shared accountability, right? Because we still live in the waterfall world for a lot of things, and not saying that waterfall is bad, but sometimes, like, if you're calling yourself agile, you cannot have these handoffs, right? You need to have this collaborative environment. And one of the things that I always try to, my best buddy needs to be the engineering manager, right? Because they are the main partner to make the magic happen at the end of the day. So it's really like bringing them on board to say, okay, well, you're part of the solution as well. So how would you tackle it? And I always invite people also to question the things that I am building, because or the write-ups and requirements and all the business justification for something, because otherwise we land on this scenario. All you need is a fan, but then you say, yeah, build me an X-ray machine for the soap boxes, and people say, yeah, sure. And then when the result doesn't show up, that's when you start like the finger point in the blaming game, right? But at the end of the day, all we had to do was to bring everybody to discover things together, and hold everybody accountable. Like the product manager is accountable, the dev lead, the architect is accountable, as well as the UX designer. It's a shared accountability. Everybody's part of the product, right? It's not something like, okay, I'm done, next unit in the assembly line.
Yeah. So one of the you kind of touched on something here in terms of thinking about, getting people invested in the right outcomes and helping them and helping them understand how what they're doing is contributing. And one of the things that I hear quite often from a lot of people is, well, there's really only a couple of metrics that actually matter, and it's revenue or customer growth or something like that. But to Brian's point earlier, those are really lagging indicators as well. I had a question here in the chat. If you didn't see it, Leslie has pointed out that it wasn't even a question, it was just kind of an observation that one challenge is, how do you set outcome metrics beyond revenue that aren't just those lagging indicators? It's hard to get leaders in business-driven organizations to understand other product metrics besides that revenue direct component, especially if they're hard to measure metrics, if they're really hard inferred metrics. Can you talk a little bit about your experience in getting leadership to understand the contribution through metrics that may not be directly revenue related metrics? How do you conduct that conversation and help leaders understand the contribution that your product is making and why they should care about metrics besides the revenue right now? Brian, I want to let you kick that one off.
Yeah, so I think it's a great question, and it's a very common thing, right? A lot of the things that we measure are lagging indicators. I think the biggest thing is understanding the intent and the funnels. So what are the things that funnel into revenue? And it goes all the way from, product awareness through to decision making, to deciding to buy and check out, and all of those types of things. And to use an e-com example, right? You had that whole shopping path where you're trying to drive discovery, to drive comparison, all of those things. And then you tracked a few things that led into the revenue. So you track things like, hey, what's our average order value? How many items are in their cart? What's our conversion rate? And you kind of show that relationship and say, hey, I can drive revenue a lot of different ways. Where I think we have the most opportunity right now is average order value, right? If we drive average order value, because we're at $30 per order, if we get that to 45, I don't have to change conversion rate at all, and I'm going to drive X amount of revenue, or vice versa. If I drive conversion rate, so just showing those relationships is something that's really, really important. We kind of have full transparency on our teams of here are the top buckets or the top pieces that we're looking at, but we also drive down to, okay, what actually controls those things? What contributes to those bucket metrics? So we can see how we're doing holistically across the products, and we can start to identify, hey, there are things that we're not measuring that we should, right? If we're just looking at conversion rate, the question is going to become, okay, well, what's the average order value, right? Our conversion rate's heavy, and in line with what the industry is doing. What other levers can we pull? And that's a big part of these metric conversations that we hold annually, and then we do kind of at our 6-week check-ins to say, hey, how are we doing? Are these still the right metrics based on where we are in our product life cycle, right? If we're very early, revenue is probably not the right one to look at, right? We want to look at awareness, we want to look at adoption, we want to look at activity. And then we know that those will drive revenue, right? We talked about the pirate metrics with all the way up to our board of directors. And I keep getting the question of like, hey, why is our revenue not growing fast enough? And the analogy I use with them is, this flywheel's a garden hose, right? Right now, we know we have challenges with activation. We need to do more around customer education and get those metrics working in order to drive the revenue. You can't force more through until you take that kink out. So that's really how I've attacked those things in my past, and it seems to drive a lot of alignment and drives a lot of discovery for me, because I don't know what I don't know, right? When I'm in the room with somebody may say, hey, this is what we did in my previous company, or have you looked at this? I read an article about this trend or this metric and things like that.
Yeah, and I think part of the struggle there is that most executives, especially at the CEO level, came from a sales background. or came from a finance background. And so, you know, they've got that mentality. You know, that's just the way they think. That's how they were successful in their previous roles. So you can't really like hold it against them, but finding other ways, like Brian mentioned, to show them how retention, customer satisfaction, even innovation. Like if we can look at how we're investing in innovation, that's going to drive new products or new opportunities that, you know, can help us overcome weaknesses or shore up some area of the company. So helping them just see that other perspective is huge.
Yeah, definitely. Like, there's no escape from translating product metrics and the relationship into the business KPIs, right? Because the sole reason a company exists to make money. So if you're not making money, you're out of business, right? And how do you use your product, right, to make this flywheel turn, as Brian was talking about, both Brian and Jerry. It's really translating having the relationship, building the relationship between the product metrics and how they're going to affect revenue. So say, for instance, like if your NPS is low because of some bugs in the system, right? You can convey that, well, our customers are not satisfied with the system right now. This can create more churn. Churn means loss of revenue, right? So if you have a lot of churn and loss of revenue, you don't have recommendations, you're preventing from new customers to be converted. So it's really how you translate those product metrics into the business metrics that the C-suite will care about. And then they will bring back, okay, so let's try something new, right? I recall in a conversation previously when I was a startup where I was having these conversations with the C-suite, and they were like, "Yeah, we need to grow our revenue." And I'm like, "Okay, well, so let's see where the majority of our revenue is coming from, and see how let's try to cross-check this information with the NPS scores we are getting from existing clients, and let's see what are the opportunities that we can explore to enhance the product and to get more clients in and to improve our NPS, so that we can make this flywheel turn, and it all comes down to like focusing, right? Because there's another problem I see is when the executives are asking about why are we not making more money, they just want holistically more money. And we have this inclination, if you're biased to action, you have this inclination of trying to boil the ocean and try to address like all the different segments at once, right? So it also requires focus. That's another thing. Like, okay, well, I have something for the core market, I have something for the down market, I have something for up market. I say, okay, I pick one. Pick one. What is the 20% of the client base that will bring you like 80% of the revenue you are thinking about, and let's focus there. So, but I don't think there is a way to escape like from these conversations with the executives. But like Brian and Jerry said, it's all about translating those product metrics and how they affect your business metrics at the end of the day.
Yeah, and I see a good, healthy chat going on about customer objectives and customer North Stars, and that's exactly right. I mean, the whole point of this is, I think somebody talked about the features earlier. Thiago, I think you were talking about features and how quickly can you get features out. And we actually wrote, or our CEO at our company wrote an article about avoiding the feature factory, right? And understanding, hey, what is the real customer problem that you're trying to solve for? And understanding what their motivations are, what their goals are, right, so that you can build a product to enable that. And getting people to understand that whole story allows you to say, okay, this is what's holding us back from the revenue, right? It's not, we just need to work harder and deliver faster. It's, hey, we might need something really strategic that's small, but we need to understand what that thing is. So really fun conversations.
Yeah, there's a really a good conversation. The one you're talking about has really started to dip into North Star metrics in general. And Eric popped in and really is a big advocate of the North Star metric, and talked a little bit about the kind of the trade-off or the connection between a product North Star that starts with a business North Star. So some people say that the North Star metric is a business metric. It exists at the top of the business and everything aligns to it. And then you have sub-metrics that come down to products. Eric's talking a little bit about a product specific North Star as well, which I've seen as well. And I think it has value as well. I'm really curious from our panelists, but also maybe we should just pull Eric on here as a surprise panelist. How many of you, and feel free to unmute if you want to join that, Eric, but Jerry, Thiago, Brian, when you've looked at North Star metrics in the past, have you looked at them at the business level or have you looked at them at the product level, both? And what's that interplay look like to you? Let me start with Jerry on that.
Jerry, I think you're on mute.
We can't hear
you. Is that better?
Yes.
Yeah,
much better.
So I've got microphone issues. I'm sorry. And thanks, Francisca, for mentioning that in chat. That otherwise I would have never known. I was just laughing because Jason and I just talked about this the other night, prepping for the North Star workshop next week, because I've seen it both ways, right? Like I've seen people use North Stars to help drive a business metric that they're trying to achieve. So they're given a business, hey, in 3 to 5 years, we want to do X. Let's back that up now to what North Star metric can we use as a leading indicator to drive that. But if you are the CEO and you're trying to drive your product into a particular place, you can flip that, right? And say, well, if I look at, the number of the amount of revenue per customer, for example, then I can lay out that in 3 to 5 years, I should be here, or and is that a decent goal, or should we be looking at another goal that's going to help us maintain some long-term success and growth? But it really depends on where your role is in the organization, right?
Yeah, I'll just piggyback on that. I'm a big Simon Sinek fan, and his Start With Why book's fantastic. And in there, he gives the story of the 3 Masons, right? And one Mason complains about how hard bricklaying is and hates it, and another brick mason says, yeah, we're building this wall, and it's not great, but at least I'm out in the fresh air, and puts food on the table. And then the last mason talks about, man, we're building a cathedral, and this is going to be the place where our community celebrates. This is where going to be the place our community comes together and mourns together. When we have important discourse, this is where it's going to happen. People are going to get married here. People are going to celebrate here. And my grandkids are going to know I was a part of this, right? And I think our job as product professionals is to paint that story, right? And whether it's a business North Star, I think really communicating the vision of what is the cathedral that you're building and what's the impact that that's going to have on the community. That's where you're going, and then you start with, okay, if that's where we're going, to your point, Jerry, how do we know whether we're going there or not?
Yeah.
What are the things that are going to tell us whether we're on that path? So I think that's the biggest thing to me is understanding the change that you're going to make for your customers and their lives is what I feel inspired by. And I think the rest of my team, from engineers, from marketing, from whoever it may be that I'm interfacing with, when we tell that story, that's what they're inspired by, right? And if we can connect everything back to that, then it's like, okay, yeah, we need to focus on this area, because that's really what's going to allow us to fulfill the promise and fulfill the vision that we all agreed to.
Yeah, and depending on it, and it will really depend on the level of maturity of the organization, right? So if you have like larger organizations that are there for quite a long time, sometimes the North Star metric will come from the top of the organization. So you're really organizing your work or strategy to support, right, that North Star metric, those objectives. Sometimes you're working a startup environment where, while you're still trying to reach like product market fit, and you have some sort of product market fit, but you still need to develop an entire vision about that. But the company is still trying to find itself where it should land. So then back to what Brian said, is really the why, right? What is the story, and what is the purpose behind building that product, building that business?
Yeah. And it does give you a good story to tell. Like Brian, you were talking about the bricklayer story that Simon Sinek uses. I've used that in several classes that I've taught. Because if you have that story to tell and that picture to paint of where you're going, it really, I mean, it can inspire that person that just wants to come in and lay brick. Like, yeah. I've worked with developers like that. I love them. It's like, okay, I was a developer like that for a while. Just wanted to come in and do my job and go home. There's nothing wrong with that. But if you can inspire that person to maybe, you know, so instead of, you know, 10 bricks an hour, do 100 bricks an hour or whatever, you know, like that inspiration really goes a long way. And that story. Go ahead, Brian.
And I was just gonna say, we see the fight for talent, right?
Yeah.
You see the fight for talent every single place you go. And so even if you have developers that just want to come in and lay bricks, knowing that they feel good about the bricks they're laying whenever they go home at night helps understand, okay, yeah, I don't really have, like, I can put up with some of the garbage that I have to put up with, right? But I'm going to take pride in what I do. I'm going to make sure that the bricks that I lay are straight, that everything's going to be stuck together well, because I understand that vision. And you know, I think the biggest thing for our company is we talk about that impact, right? We talked about climate change. We talk about healthcare being the 5th largest or 4th largest country by GDP if you took it out of the US healthcare system, right? Like, and it's growing faster than the ones above it, right? We've got some really frightening challenges in our future that have to be solved through innovation. And so for me, and hopefully for my team, that helps me feel good about how I'm spending 60, 70, 80 hours a week, right? I've got 3 kids. I want to leave the world in a better place for them. And this provides me that opportunity, right? And I can't do it alone. I need everybody in our company to understand that's what we're trying to do. So it's, you know, it's very, very near and dear to my heart as far as storytelling and North Star metrics go. And I think the same would be true for pretty much everybody's team on here.
Yeah, on the flip side, there will be people who don't care about the whole story and just want to get their job done and go back home, right? And that's totally fine. That's totally fair. One thing that I've experienced with the development team was with engineers specifically, because I saw here in the chat about engineers a few times, is really to say, well, I know you just want to get out of it, but see how important this project is for you to get out of here and enjoy time with your family. When we were starting to build metrics, we were tracking the time someone spent on the app, and we were very excited that people were spending a lot of time in the app in the beginning, and then we started thinking, hang on a second, this is a B2B software, right? I'm talking about some human resources practitioner who wants to complete their tests really, really fast, get out of the system, and go pick their son at the baseball practice, right? So when you understand people's motivations, you can also work that to your advantage. And then when we realized, we had a discussion about that, and one of the leaders said, yeah, we want to keep people like using the app. And I said, but we are HR software. We are not like a media company. We're not social media. I want people to get out of my app as soon as possible. They need to have time back to their lives. And so when you start like analyzing also the aspirations and where people want to be, right? Even on this story that you want to tell, people will say, I don't care about your story. I just want to build software. Okay, so let me tell you like how your work and how the quality of this product is going to make your life easier, and I don't need to call you over the weekend with a production issue. So so that's another the flip side of like using the purpose, right, for people who don't believe in their purpose, but they are still needed to make something go out of the door.
Very good. I have, at the beginning of the call, thanks everybody. That I love that conversation. At the beginning of the call, Chris Chan was asking a question, or was kind of talking about one of the things that he's thinking about, has his attention right now, is keeping track of and communicating KPIs and specific and metrics and the specific tools that people use to do that successfully up and down throughout the organization. I know one of the most common answers is PowerPoint, but or Google Slides nowadays. We see a lot more of that. But I'm curious, from the three of you, from a best practices standpoint, what do you use? What do you see? How do you see the most successful product teams and product leaders effectively communicating these types of measurements that we're talking about that are effective, both up to leadership and down to the development team? What are the frameworks and approaches and tools that you personally like or have seen be really successful? Let's start with you, Thiago.
Yeah. So one thing that we use a lot, we started using like 2 years ago. We started like introducing the Google's heart metrics framework, right? So for happiness, engagement, adoption, retention, and task completion. So that's the way we use to report our metrics. When we're building the metrics for our products, we always use the heart framework to come up what are the signals we want to track and what are the metrics that are going to support that. And so yes, it is PowerPoint, but we also have some Pendo dashboards. We use Pendo at ADP. So we have these dashboards and we track the information, and we have our also slides. Sometimes the execs don't want to log into the behavior analytics tool. They just want to have like an executive summary in a PowerPoint slide. So we try to depict like an infographic with the heart metrics to see, okay, this is how we are performing. And depending on the needs for your business unit and what your leader is looking for, you can do that on a monthly basis, a quarterly basis, and you just do the comparisons, right? Also for your benefit to see if things are trending up or trending down, and if they are going the right direction. So this is the heart framework is something that has been helping us a lot, and is one of the main drivers for us to say, oh, this metric is not looking good right now. Let's start some research right away, and let's figure out why this is wrong. And that's when we start uncovering more things for the product suite.
How about you, Jerry?
Oh, you're going to say Brian for last. I wonder why.
Yeah, I am.
So, yeah, I have seen a lot of different ways to do this, right? Depending on the metric you want to capture. We used Pendo back in the early days of Pendo for collecting user analytics from our product and tools like Google Analytics and things like that. But then pulling them together in a dashboard usually wound up in a PowerPoint. Like if it was going to be presented, it wound up in a PowerPoint or a Google slide or something like that. I think that is one area. One of the products I launched at version 1 was a reporting and analytics product. And in talking to teams and product people about that over the years, one of the things that there seemed to be a real opportunity for was a product that just sucks in this data and puts it up there, and gives you a central place to collect whatever metrics that you're looking for. Yeah, teed you up there, Brian.
No, that's perfect. That's perfect. Yeah, so I think there's a number of different frameworks, right? And I think, whether it's OKRs, whether it's hearts, whether it's, goals and KPIs, I think the biggest thing is establishing what works for you and what works for your team. But I think the things that we try to drive, and this is going to sound like a shameless plug, and somewhat is. So.
Oh, it's not shameless. You're paying for it.
Yeah, exactly. We did launch a brand new product this year, just a few months ago, called Acclaim Products by Sopheon. And the whole purpose of that product was to do this, right? We knew Jira has your backlog. We knew Google Analytics or Pendo or somebody else has your analytics. What we wanted to do is bring together the 7 applications that you're using on a day-to-day basis and put them into one tool that can talk to those, but allow you a space to make sense of this. And so the product's set up to say, hey, what industry are you in? We use artificial intelligence to suggest a few things that you may want to track. So if you say, hey, I work in e-com, it's going to say, hey, you might want to be tracking average order value, conversion rates, page views or product views, all of those types of things. And then the way that we use that inside of our company is I have line of sight to every single product manager, what products they're working on, what KPIs they're tracking. We can have conversations about which way those things are going. Do we feel good about where they are? All of those types of things. And then we have those products integrated to Jira for the developers, right? I know the comment earlier was, dealing with organizational change management. That's a bear. And so we tried to make that as small as possible and say, hey, you don't have to convince the developers to leave Jira. If they love Jira, great. But we know product managers don't. So you get to work here in a tool that makes sense of your life. And then when we do things like sprint planning or any type of story pointing or things like that, we do it inside of Acclaim products, because that way the team sees, okay, what are we trying to drive to again, right? Why are we doing what we're doing? Every activity you can tag it with KPIs. So if you say, hey, we're going to accept Google Pay moving forward, probably not going to change your average order value, but it'll change your conversion rate. So you say, hey, this is going to drive conversion rate. And then as you organize those things into work boards, organize them into releases, we aggregate everything from an effort perspective and show you where are you investing your effort. So you can go back to those executives and say, hey, we talked about revenue, right? And we talked about that being a combination of these 3 things. You can see in our next release or in this work board, we're focused on these 3, right? We've got a couple others in there, but most of our effort is going to these things. And so the team has really responded well to it. The developers have really said, to Jerry and Thiago's points earlier, yeah, you may have a couple of areas like, just tell me what I need to do and I'll do it. But for a lot of the developers, the feedback has been like, this is so helpful, because now whenever you tell me to do a drop down, I can say, hey, is that really what we should be doing here? Like, I understand what we're trying to drive. I understand the problem, what we're talking about. And so those are the types of things that we've kind of built this product to do. We've got more stuff coming out. We've got more integrations. We've got personas coming out in the next week or 2. So you can track not only the KPI, but who's the persona that has the problem you're solving, all of those types of things. And it's been a really, really helpful tool for us to explain not only what are we doing and when are you getting it, but why are we doing what we're doing, right? And then when you have those conversations with developers of like, hey, we're going to change the roadmap, it's not, oh, here comes that jackass product manager again coming in to change my roadmap whenever I thought I knew what I was working on just because they had a bad weekend. You can really explain like, hey guys, this is the change we saw in the product, right? We thought this was on track and we're off. And so we need to go back and think about how we drive this one metric again. So it's really been a nice communication tool for us, and something that we welcome everybody to try out. It is a free to try product. We just launched a reverse free trial of the paid versions this week. So you can go in there and connect it to your Jira instance and all of those types of things, invite teammates, do multiple products, figure out how it works for you. And then let us know what you think. But that's really how we built the product, was around that framework of really connecting the why.
One of the things Just real quickly, real quickly, I want to mention one of the things I really liked about Acclaim products when I logged in the first time is so many product managers that I talk to know that they need to be tracking things and where to start and how to think about organizing your metrics and your tracking and your communication is really hard. And I love how you immediately, that's the point when you log into Acclaim products for the first time, you start getting suggestions and a walkthrough on how to think about organizing your information and putting together your goals to track. And it just makes it was such a great onboarding for people who are starting to think about this problem for the first time in a really organized way. So we're really excited to have you as a sponsor here because I really do love what you're doing there. Jerry, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there, buddy.
No, that's fine. I wanted to connect something Brian said back to. I know I saw it in the chat earlier and we talked about it just briefly, but how do you communicate these things, right? How do you communicate these things to your developers or to your management, or how do you change a stakeholder's position on something? And Brian sort of led to it there. It's all in the way you talk about it. If you're walking around talking about burn down charts and velocity, guess what people are going to focus on? Whereas if you walk around and you talk about customer value and retention and metrics that are really matter, then people will latch on to that. And that executive that only cares about revenue, they'll turn and eventually start seeing other ways to connect what you're talking about to revenue, and they'll start to see that light. And developers will be, the mindset there will change from, got to crank out another 10 points for this sprint to where can I add the maximum value to the product? So the communication piece is key.
Absolutely. It's a deal breaker.
It is. It really is. And that is a lot of what our job is about.
It really is. I want to thank everyone. I want to thank Jerry, Thiago, and Brian for joining us today. This has been a fantastic panel discussion, probably my favorite panel all year because I literally didn't have to do anything to keep the conversation going. I just threw it out there, and you guys had some great questions coming through the chat. It made it really work really well. Thank you, everybody, for being here today. This has been a great session. If you haven't already signed up to our mailing list, run over to productcoffee.com and sign up for our newsletter so that you hear about all of our upcoming sessions. We've got 2 sessions next week with our product management stories, how I got into product management, and our last workshop of the year, Power Metrics, where we're going to be talking about the North Star framework. We'd love to have you join us for those things. And then we're going to take a few weeks off for the holidays, and we'll be back in January with our next series. So watch for announcements about that as well. And one last thing I didn't get to today is we have starting out at the end of this week, we're starting a new book club at productcoffee.com/book club. This is free to join. It's open to everybody who'd like to join us. And we're going to be reading the book Start at the End by Matt Wallert. And you can order that on Amazon. There's a link right there on the page. And we would love to have you join us. We'll be doing weekly Zoom calls to talk about small sections of the book at a time. So if you're not a super fast reader, don't worry about it. We're going to really engage with each other, make some great connections, build your network, and dig into a really great product management book. That's it for this week. Thanks, everybody, for joining
Club
us.
Or Fight Club, Jason?
Book club. Book club. We can talk about what happens in book club.
What happens in book club
But
stays
still
in book
one
club.
book at a time, right? It's not obviously just between 2 guys, but it's one book at a time.
Well, yeah, 100%. So thank you, everybody, for being here. Have a great week. And if I don't see you again, have a Merry Christmas, and we will talk to you soon. Take care.